Okay, thank you. That's true.
There you go.
Thanks for the early heads up. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the 11th of August Strategy and Policy Committee meeting. Excuse me. Welcome to members of the public, staff, committee members, your worship, councillors and members of the media, and special guests in the, I was going to say in the studio today, like I'm a DJ. The Wintec students from level 5 are doing a diploma in business administration, so welcome. I hope you find this meeting as exciting as I do, and I believe that our democracy manager spoke to you a week or so ago, and you're following the process of how council makes decisions, so this is one step in that process, so welcome along. Do we still do a tea trolley out here for members of the public? No, I won't say we do a tea trolley then, all right? And committee members, we will take an afternoon tea break at 3 p.m. So with that, I open the meeting. I have apologies for lateness from Councillor Gallagher, who is attending a funeral, and apologies from Councillor McPherson for lateness. Are there any other apologies? No, so with that, I'll move those apologies. Can I have a seconder? Councillor King. All those in favour? Aye. Any against? That's carried. Confirmation of the agenda. I will move that. There are no changes to that agenda. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Wilson. Thank you. All those for? Any against? That's carried. Any declarations of interest? No, there being none. And we move on to the public forum. We have one person speaking in the public forum today, and that is a Gavin Lycett, and he is representing AA, and he's talking on item 10 on the bike plan. So, Gavin, all yours. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Gavin Lycett, and I represent the Waikato District Council of the New Zealand Automobile Association. Firstly, thank you for the opportunity to be involved in this Hamilton City Council biking plan. As most of you will be aware, the AA is clearly a motoring organisation set up to promote such activity and provide benefits to its 1.4 million members. The organisation is also seen as an independent body, and drawing on its membership is frequently called upon to provide feedback to government and other regulatory bodies. These days, it would be fair to say, however, that the focus of AA is just not on motorists, but on all road users, and this, of course, includes the cyclist. In conjunction with the New Zealand Transport Agency, we often talk about safer journeys, no matter the distance, whether it's 1 kilometre or 100 kilometres. With reference to the biking plan, the intent is to provide safe cycleways. The safer cycleway is obviously that completely separate to the road or street. Next would be clearly marked lanes on the side of the roadway next to the footpath, and the third and least desirable is riding between parked cars and moving traffic. And as a cyclist, we all have examples of bad experiences in such situations. We all hear feedback, however, where the motorist can get frustrated because they are stuck in behind a group of cyclists, and this, the concern is that the frustration can lead to poor on-road behaviour, resulting in what I would call an unplanned event or an accident, and road rage, of course, is the obvious scenario. From an AA perspective, it is also the focus that we work towards minimising congestion on our roads and streets for all parties, and especially for our commercial operators. The key to the success of this plan is the ability of the planners to get it right first time, for the motorists and cyclists to have the skills to perceive and recognise the ongoing risks involved, and thus making another essential component of this plan being education for all parties. The implementation and uptake of this plan, as I see it, is not going to be easy or quick, as we'll have family generations in Hamilton where biking was not part of their culture. However, from a health, tourism, quality family time perspective, the benefits of cycling can be huge, but this needs to be very measured along with a sustainable long-term plan for the future. So in summary, the Waikato District Council of the New Zealand AA support the plan.
Great, thanks, Gavin. Are there any questions? No questions from the committee. Thank you. Thank you for joining us today. Right, committee, we are moving on to item 5, the minutes of the 7th July Strategy and Policy Committee meeting. On page 5, moved by Councillor Wilson.
Second.
Thank you. Seconded by Her Worship. I just have a couple of minute notes to add if the mover and seconder are okay with that. Just on page 8, item 8, the cemeteries management plan, page 9, the cemeteries management plan, just under the recommendation to council there, just a minute note noting under D that staff aren't reporting back to the 11th of August, that they will be reporting back to the 27th of August council meeting rather than the 11th, today's meeting of strategy and policy. So that is a minute note. And the other minute note is under the Public Arts Subcommittee down the bottom of page 9C, where it says that the terms of reference were to come back to this committee meeting 11th of August. Minute note to say that that was those terms of reference and members of the subcommittee were adopted at the 30th of July 2015 council meeting. So if that's okay with the mover and seconder, I'll put that to the... any questions? Councillor Mallett?
Thank you. Coming with the belief that words actually have meanings. Page 10, D, it's about the alcohol control bylaw. The proposed draft Hamilton Alcohol Control Bylaw 2015 be adopted by the Council for public engagement. Now, there is a legal term, special consultation process. There is another term which I don't think has a particularly legal connotation called consultation. What's engagement mean?
The engagement is seeking the views and submissions of the public. It's not a formal SCP process, so engagement is an appropriate term here. It could be for public consultation, but the word engagement's been used.
Okay, well, I just suggest we need to get some consistency in what we mean, because this is a resolution by the council requiring staff to do an activity. We just need to be very clear what the activity means.
I think we just need to read it from memory and context of the report. Very minor changes to the bylaw itself. So this was a very low-level form of reaching out to the public and just seeking any feedback on those proposed changes.
See, Blair, even there, reaching out to the public, what on earth does that mean? We're going to engage the staff, going to give them some money and say, do some stuff for us?
I think
we've got to be clear what it means.
The report was quite clear, if I recall. It identified what the form of engagement was with the public, and this recommendation reflects that. So it was low. It wasn't extensive engagement. It wasn't extensive public meetings.
Did the report document what the reach out or the engagement or the consultation was going to be?
It did itemise what the plan was, yes.
Okay. So maybe as per report of such and such or something, I don't know. Because ultimately what happens is this becomes what we follow, not the report that was presented to the...
Well, I think the recommendation here has been passed. Mm-hmm. It was within the delegation of this committee. I think if you read that recommendation in conjunction with the report was very clear, Councillor.
Mm-hmm.
Madam Chair, if I may assist, councillors may recall, of course, that the government changed the law recently and required us to have a significance and engagement policy, of which this council has signed off. So the government, if you like, introduced the word engagement, and my understanding is that every time we are considering a decision, we consider whether we do need to engage in terms of that policy. Am I right, General Manager? But could I just say, Chair, that my recollection also is that that policy does sort of spell that out, but maybe we should recirculate that to everyone so that we just got it uppermost in our mind. It might be.
That's a good
because
idea.
At the end of the day, it's the clarity about what we are doing that Councillor Mallett is raising, rather than the terminology, perhaps.
Yep. Thank you. Good idea. Right. Are there any further questions, items raising on the minutes?
Is that the minutes?
Now these are the minutes. I'm going to pass these separately, although they are the same items. So I'll move that the minutes.
Sorry, Angela,
done the
one other?
7th. We've got to vote on the 7th because we've moved in 2nd and the 7th of July one.
Oh, sorry, we have two. Yeah. Oh, yeah, we have. No, we'll do them. We'll just do them together then. 'Cause
Oh,
we've
together?
Added those minute notes. So we'll just anything being raised, any issues on the minutes of the 3rd of August, which is page 22.
Yes, I just did have a question, and it's probably useful for everyone to know. With the apologies, Councillor Wilson's apology for being late, he actually didn't turn up that day, so I was just wondering whether that lateness still applies.
I was particularly late.
Yeah.
Very late.
On page 22.
I had good intentions.
We could put down very lateness.
You took lateness to extremes, didn't you?
So,
So I'm happy to.
You-
Well, I guess I did. I had submitted an apology for lateness, so that was the intention of it. Clearly, if I didn't
Yeah.
turn up, then we'll have to address that.
so how democracy? How was that addressed? Given that the apology for lateness was received and accepted.
Through you, Madam Chair, yes, it's these minutes are accurate because that is what you moved. The option that you would have if you want to would be to add a minute note. But I would just draw your attention to the attendance. Under those present, if you just look above where the apologies are, you'll notice that Councillor Wilson's
Not in
not in attendance. So it is clear that he didn't turn up, otherwise his name would have been on that.
So, Councillor Forsyth, you've raised it. You're happy with that?
That's fine if that's our
Okay.
procedure. Yeah, that's fine.
All right.
Thanks.
Are there any other questions on the minutes? Okay, they've been moved by Councillor Wilson, seconded by the Mayor. I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? Any against? That's carried. Right, we're on to item 6, page 25. Now, these are the first annual reports from our advisory panels, and we've split them up. There'll be some this time and then some for our September Strategy and Policy Committee meeting. And as you know, the advisory panels have an important role for us as governors and policy setters in influencing that policy early on. So we're going to hear from the chairs today, and the first one up is Pam Rower, who is chair of the Public Arts Forum Advisory Panel. Hi, welcome, Pam.
Thank you, Councillor Liu.
And Nick. So we're in your hands.
Thank you for the invite to address you today. I will take the report as read and perhaps move straight to the recommendations section and then receive any questions about that. What I would like to also acknowledge is that our meeting last week was under a new process, and we were very happy to have Democracy Unit's involvement in that, and it has certainly smoothed over some of the way we were organising our meetings, and we had been experimenting with how to put recommendations forward to this committee, and because of that I have included recommendations that we had made at a previous meeting for completeness, so that they were on the record since this is the first meeting under this new process. And if I could acknowledge that most of those we've had some feedback from staff now about where those got to. But the key ones are recommendation number 1 is that we are actually reviewing the arts agenda at the moment, and we do feel that the Arts Forum's feedback to this committee is that arts agenda does need to be owned and publicly communicated by councillors. That would be our wish, our advice, and so we have made this recommendation that once the new arts agenda is adopted, that the Arts Forum might present to councillors that arts agenda and talk about what those projects might look like and how councillors could support that in their communications. And the second recommendation I'd like to raise is the recommendation that the External Funding Subcommittee of Council supports an application to fund an art gallery pre-feasibility study. The reason why this one is why we've still put this forward is that the Arts Forum would really like to receive feedback on that recommendation that has been in place for some time now from this committee as to the possibility of the external funding subcommittee supporting that. And I really want to take the opportunity to be very clear that this recommendation has never been about recommending council supports the building of an art gallery. This is simply a project we identified early on to undertake a pre-feasibility study that would capture the work done in a workshop last year in the arts sector, where 4 possible options for an art gallery were raised, and the importance of doing some pre-feasibility work to actually understand what would the capital structure and operational structure look like for those options, and make a recommendation on what would suit best. So it was a small project that we felt external funders would be very willing to support, but it needed to actually be a council application to those funders. And because the Arts Forum, under its new terms of reference, is simply an advisory panel, we actually can't push that out to external funders. It would have to come through council. So we're really keen to get feedback from the committee on that recommendation, and would like to once again state that we think it's really important that something like that go forward.
Thank you. Pam, just before we go to questions, if I can, I did speak with the General Manager on some of the recommendations in the report, and he, of course, told me that some of them are slightly out of date now and decisions have been made. So we've got a resolution that I think has captured all of your, the Founders Theatre, the art gallery resolution, the briefing for elected members, etc. So putting the ones that we've already made decisions on aside, so we'll just leave that up there for elected members to read, and go to questions for you. Or just elected members, we have some of the items raised that Pam has raised, we've already made decisions on. The Founders Theatre business case is included now in our draft 10-year plan, and of course the Community Assistance Funding Program is also in place already, so and Pam has been updated on those. So are there questions of Pam?
Just a point of clarity, g'day Pam, your recommendation number 1, that talks about what you're talking about, the art gallery.
Do you mean number 1 on
2000,
this list?
yes.
Okay, so under number 2, 2015, so that was a recommendation about that the external funding subcommittee support council putting an application to external funders for a pre-feasibility study to investigate further the recommendations around 4 different options for an art gallery for the city.
Okay, so that would, you're suggesting that might cost $40,000?
Yes, that was actually quoted, that we actually went out at the time to get quotes on what that might cost. Yeah.
And you're suggesting that council itself wouldn't fund it, that council would support council's own external funding committee to solicit those funds from third parties?
Yes, the indication from external funders is that it would be reasonable to expect, they would have an expectation that council might put up part of that 40,000, but that external fund to show some skin in the game, as they refer to it, which is generally expected, but that might be a sum of $10,000, for instance, and the Arts Forum feels there is a really good chance that the majority of that 40,000 could be externally funded.
Okay. Just wonder, can one of the GMs tell us if anything has been provided for in our annual budget, our 10-year plan, our 30-year plan, our whatever plan?
Lance will answer that.
For the $40,000 for the pre-feasibility study, the answer is no.
So we haven't got, you talk at skin of the game, so at the moment there's no provision for any skin of the game in this particular project, this particular recommendation?
No, no specific funding for that.
Thank you.
Councillor Pascoe.
Yeah, just to add on to Councillor Mallett's questions, the 40,000, if it was funded by council, or the 10,000, that would be our skin in the game, so to speak.
For instance.
Is the intention, when I look at the motion up there, is that that would be a decision made from the 2016 draft annual plan as to whether or not council would fund some or all of that feasibility study?
Yeah, I was going. Well, yes, that's the motion that I've popped up there. I mean, that says that staff will liaise with the Arts Forum and Creative Waikato and have those discussions. And if then that is felt that that's a way forward, well, then that would come back through the annual plan. It may be that through those discussions, Creative Waikato can apply for funding for a pre-feasibility study. I don't know. Those discussions haven't been had. But it would be as a result of those discussions.
So the short answer is we're not committing any funds.
We're not committing
at all.
any funds through this resolution,
All we're
no.
doing is indicating that that would be the next step, would be then to come back and report back
Yes.
in the sense of whether we would be putting 10 or whatever amount in out of our next year's annual plan into
That's
that
correct.
feasibility study. Thank you.
Are there any further questions?
So given what you've just, the discussion that just happened then, are we starting, in effect, we're making a recommendation to go forward into our discussions for the 2016 annual plan? Is that what we just started then?
Yeah.
So you're not committing council to any expenditure, but you are identifying that you'd like to discuss whether council may put some funding into that work as part of the 2016-17 annual plan process.
Yes, sorry, 16-17, aren't we? So we're talking
Yeah.
a long way out.
So that process will be
No,
later this year, early
later
next year.
this year we'd start the process.
So if we move this now, that is locked into our draft
No.
16-17
No.
annual plan.
No, to be clear, council would receive a report from the General Manager, Lance, on this particular matter to be considered as part of the annual plan discussions, and council can determine whether they wish to put anything or not in terms of a change into the budget.
So why would we make that decision now then?
All you're doing is instructing staff to report back as part of the annual plan process when council first considers the draft annual plan. As council has previously resolved on things such as to report back on the Founders Theatre, on the indoor recreation centre, on the swimming pool. So various matters that you've asked to come back as part of that process.
Okay, there are no further questions, Pam, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Now, we don't have recommendations from the other advisory panels.
Excuse me, Angela, can I just ask a
but I-
question? The recommendation you've got up there is quite different than what Pam, the page 29
Yes, this
recommendation
is my
isn't it?
motion.
Yeah, okay. And that's the first time we've seen it?
Well, it's my motion, so yes, it is the first time you've seen it.
Okay, so it didn't come out in the agenda?
No, because it's my motion.
Yep, okay.
As any
So it could be
member
good to be
can
able to see
move
it.
a motion
Yep,
at any time.
Yeah, tone of voice. Yeah, I appreciate that. Just I'm trying to read it, and it's a bit difficult to try and read
So
it
would you
and
like
discuss
it
it.
bigger font?
Yeah, please, or maybe even a copy that I could look at.
Okay, so a bigger font.
There's a copy coming.
Here's a copy.
Thank you. Perhaps other members might like that.
Well, no. No, it's up there. All right, so there, I'm going to move the, do these separately. I think that's the easiest way, given that this one does have some recommendations. So that's my motion, and I'm going to move that. And do I have a seconder for that? Deputy Mayor. Thank you, Deputy. And we'll move into debate. Is there any debate on that? There is no debate, so I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour?
Right.
Are there any against? That's been carried, thank you. Right, so we're on to the second advisory panel's chair report, and that's the Heritage Advisory panel, and that is the Deputy Mayor. So Deputy, we're on page, unnumbered page 31. Over to you.
Yes, thank you, Chair. It is a very short report. It's as circulated. Apologies to Councillor Mallet on the use of public engagement. I can confirm, if he's listening, that public engagement...
You better start again.
I just wanted to apologise to you over the use of the word public engagement. We did
no apology needed.
Okay, we did have some public meetings and they continued through July. The committee meeting of November 3 will have the response back from that feedback for councillors to consider. And I would like the minutes to note, Chair, if you think it's appropriate, that I was elected patron of the Waikato Historical Society at the weekend. I personally don't think that's a conflict, but I would like that noted. I have no influence over the society and don't participate in their meetings. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Deputy, and congratulations. Right, are there any questions? Councillor Mallet?
Just on the point 3, so we're on page 31, I guess. Yep, page 31, yep. Update on the advisory panel's work program. What's the next step for the plan now, Gordon?
I haven't yet seen the submissions that have come in, and the next step would be for the committee to understand what the submissions are, whether they support or oppose. So the next step will be that report back to council and for consideration as to whether the policy and the heritage incentive program will be approved by council. So I'm not in a position to answer today what that response has been, but I can say that at the Arts Post there was a very good turnout of members of the public. I believe Councillor King was there, I was there, and there was another councillor there as well, Councillor Tooman. So, look, it's moving along, progressing as I expected, but council is yet to make a final decision based on that feedback.
Thank you, Deputy. There are no further questions?
I'll move the report be received.
Seconded by Councillor Pascoe. Is there any debate? No, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? Any against? That's carried. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. We'll move on to page 32, the Youth Advisory Panel Chairperson's Report, and we have the Chair, Roxy, supported by Nick. Hi, Roxy. How are you?
Good, thank you, Madam Chair.
And now I believe we have a video to watch.
Yes, so kia ora koutou. Thank you for having me here today. To start off the report for the Youth Advisory Panel, we have a short video clip which relates to item 4 of the report, the recent 30 under 30 awards that we've held.
Do we have sound?
Biggest success, winning a gold medal at the... It's mentally taxing, it's emotionally taxing. There's a lot more to it than just grinding away and working hard in the gym, balancing your lifestyle and making sure I have the right people around me. My name's David Nika, I'm 19 years old. I compete as an amateur boxer full-time. In 2014, it was probably my biggest success, winning a gold medal at the Commonwealth Games in Glasgow. Other than that, I've won 4 national titles, 4 Golden Glove titles, and been overseas a bunch of times. I've been boxing since I was 14 years old, so for the last 5 years, I've really just been honing my craft and trying to be the best boxer and best athlete I can be. To get to where I am today, it's basically been about making necessary sacrifices. I don't really know a lot other than how to train and how to work hard and to get myself to where I need to be.
Well, I think David's the sort of guy that will, if he focuses and he puts his energy into the areas he wants, he'll achieve. He's just that sort of athlete, really. David, he doesn't miss many things. You know, he's continually looking to improve himself. He's continually looking at ways to do things better, and that's what athletes are required to do.
I've got a good family and a good backing from the community. When I do turn professional, I want my professional debut to be at the Clauden's Event Centre. I really want to pack that up. And I think Hamilton's just a great place. It's got that family feel to it. As an amateur boxer, I don't get any prize money. I don't get any money from my actual boxing. I need sponsors. A lot of people that have gotten behind me and decided that I'm someone worth backing. Some advice I'd give to the younger generation: make those necessary sacrifices. For me, I can't go out and party as much as maybe I want to, but I understand that that's a big part of being an athlete and being a good person to the people around me. My goals and dreams it has always been to win a Commonwealth gold medal, which I've ticked that box off, an Olympic gold medal, so that's still in the making, and then to turn professional and be a world champion. Kind of need to fulfill my life purpose, and I'm not too sure what that is yet, but I think boxing is going to open a lot of doors for me.
That's great.
So that is just a short clip from the 30 Under 30 Awards, which is addressed in item 4 of this report. I'm happy to take the report as read or speak to it if any councillors have any questions from it.
If there's highlights that you wanted to talk about, Roxy, that's fine, and then we can just go to questions.
I guess the highlights are itemised in item 4, where we talk about the major achievements for the panel. Firstly, in there we have a meeting with the Honourable Nikki Kay earlier this year. The Minister came down to Hamilton to discuss issues that were pertinent to the youth sector at a national level, and also how it would be impacting Hamilton and how Hamilton impacts on the youth sector nationally as well. So it was a good opportunity for our panel to meet with the Minister and have those discussions with her then. Secondly, we have there the 30 Under 30 Awards, which that clip is taken from. This has been a long project in the making, genesis being with the Youth Council previously. We've developed it alongside Council, and in the end we hosted the 30 Under 30 Awards during the Youth Week this year. So that was a very good achievement for us, and also a good achievement for Hamilton to showcase the amazing young people that we have here in the city. And then thirdly in that achievements list is the review of the Hamilton Rangatahi Youth Action Plan, which is, I understand, is on the agenda next topic.
Yep. Great, thanks, Roxy. Right, any questions? No questions? Oh, Councillor King?
On page 33, meeting, I'm just trying to get my head around what have we done for this boxer as a council? I mean, he's got there by hard work, but where he spoke highly of Hamilton, what have we done for him?
So how that video clip came about was through the 30 Under 30 project, where we asked Hamilton for to nominate people or young people that would be suitable for the awards. So we had a number of nominations put through. I think there were over 60, or nearly 70 nominations put through, and the Youth Advisory Panel went through and sat down and chose the 30 successful candidates. We acknowledged everybody that was nominated as well, and then we hosted the award ceremony in Youth Week earlier this year. From that, we are now profiling the various recipients of the awards, and David's profile, it hasn't gone official as yet, but that will be profiled on the Hamilton City Council website shortly, as well as the other profiles, whether it's written, has been going in City News and on the website as well.
Thank you. I think he is on the website already, that clip.
Okay, are there any further questions? Councillor Forsyth.
Thank you. Thank you, Roxy. Look, I just wondered if you could explain the main purpose behind the 30 under 30 project in the first place. I mean, I don't know if councillors really understand why Youth Council wanted to initiate that project.
Sure. So, as set out under the major achievements, the purpose of the 30 under 30 project was to showcase the talent in Hamilton, and also to break down those negative stereotypes that exist amongst young people in Hamilton. We thought by showcasing 30 outstanding and achieving young Hamiltonians, it would break those stereotypes, and also be able to profile the diversity in our community. So the areas where we looked for when finding these 30 successful or high achieving young people were sports and athletic pursuits, academic study, arts and cultural, community work, environmental and conservation work, and overcoming adversity and employment in their careers. Quite a diverse range of people that we had nominated, and I think that is well reflected in the 30 candidates selected.
Great, thank you. Any further questions? No, so mover, Councillor Forsyth?
Yes, and I'd like to add an amendment D.
Oh, okay, so, yep.
That Council formally acknowledge the input of the Youth Council Advisory Panel and thank youth councillors for their continued support.
Okay, so we are moving these separately, so this is a new motion, so can you...
All right, I'm a couple of pages ahead.
Can you read
I can still move that recommendation,
Sorry, hang on.
if you like, that the chairperson's report's received.
On page 34, yes. Yep, and that, what was it? What was your motion? What was the next bit?
Oh, look, yeah, I
Sorry.
handed it there, and B then, I suppose. That the Council formally acknowledge the input of the Youth Council Advisory Panel and thank youth councillors for their continued support.
I'll second that.
Seconded by the Deputy Mayor. Would you like to speak to that, Councillor Forsyth?
Oh, and I think it's pretty straightforward.
Okay.
They do a great job, and they're a group of volunteers, and I just think it would be really nice for us to acknowledge that and support them in their work plan going forward.
Yeah, I echo what Councillor Forsyth has said, and as a city with a high demographic of younger people, higher than the national average, I think it's the 30 under 30 in particular is a great way to celebrate that youth, so well done on that project. Is there any further debate? All those in favour? Are there any against? That's carried, thank you. Thanks, Roxy.
Thank you.
Right, item... Oh, actually, you're staying in your seat, aren't you? Yes. Item 7, Youth Action Plan Review, page 35. And Roxy will be there if we need her, and Nick will be there to answer questions. Take the report as read. Nick, are there any questions on this? Councillor Mallett.
Yes. Page 35, financial status. There is no budget allocated. Can you explain that?
So all the actions that are contained within the Youth Action Plan are met under existing budgets. They're factored into the work plans of our community advisors for a large part, or they're allocated under other funding which has already been put in place. So there's no additional funding required to meet this.
So the cost of doing that stuff is in a budget?
Well, it's part of our operating budget for our staff.
So there is a budget, it's just not separately disclosed, is it right?
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, depends on the...
Well, we're not getting it free. I mean, presumably you spend some time on this and other staff spend some time on this.
Yeah, well, I mean,
and,
yeah.
And you're paid and you have an office and that sort of stuff?
Yeah.
Okay, so do we not allocate costs down to this level?
No.
Okay, so there is a budget, we just don't disclose, we just don't identify it. There is a cost, we don't identify it.
Well, it's wrapped up in general budgets, as Nick's described, so we don't have a separate cost centre for every action plan and that sort of thing, apart from the, if there's any cost involved in development, the actual implementation of some of these sorts of things that actually woven in with other work, it becomes quite complicated to actually separate out what the cost is, so people have to start estimating if they have an hour of their time, how much do they allocate to this and that. Community advisors do a bunch of different things.
Yeah. So this all gets, this cost would be allocated into overhead?
No, it's in the community advisors operational budget, which is in the community services activity that's in the LTP. It gets reported to the Finance Committee.
Okay, thank you. Just reading the actual report, so this is the, starts on page 38, I guess, because it's not the page, but the actual report itself, we've got 3 outcomes, 5 goals, and then we talk about some deliverables. Where do I find them? Just, do you want to sort of expand on those things? How are we measuring these things? How do we know they're working? How do we know they're having a positive impact? Particularly given that we don't know what they cost. And I appreciate a lot of, Roxy and people like that are doing stuff for nothing. So how do we know these things are working?
So the Community Development Unit will be reporting back on the success of this report. As you can see, most of these actions have a deliverable date next to them as to when they'll be achieved by. So we'll be reporting back regularly to make sure that this has all been achieved. And yeah, that's really how that will be. There'll be ongoing reporting to make sure that we are actually achieving these things.
And the dates, when will they be coming back to us?
Well, there's a variety. If you look at the under each of the goals, there's a variety of actions.
Yep.
And most of these have due by dates. Some of them are annual events or things that will happen on an ongoing basis, so they don't have an actual finish date because they're things that happen every year. But other than that, there is a completion date for all of them, and so we'll be reporting back regularly to make sure that these things are being achieved by the date set.
Okay. I looked through the report and trying to find some sort of concrete things rather than aspirational stuff. Goal 4.5, identify gaps in existing research on Hamilton's young people and prioritise 5 research projects. Have they been done?
Yes, so that is one of the actions that's been carried over from the existing Youth Action Plan. Mm-hmm. So that work has been ongoing. The team that's put that together has got their, as far as I'm aware, they have their 5 research projects kind of narrowed down or fairly close to it. I don't have them to hand, unfortunately, but I do believe that they're pretty close to having that completed. And then they'll start prioritising to decide which one is going to be first up.
And so those 5 research projects are done by Hamilton City Council staff?
They're done by a variety, so this is one that will be a little bit collaborative. So there will be some input from Hamilton City Council, but we're working with staff at Wintec and some external people as well to make sure we've got a wide range of views through that research. So
this will be part of the stuff that's in that other budget that Lance spoke of. I can't recall what it was called. Is that right?
Yeah, and at the moment, yeah.
Why? Okay. Why will it change?
Well, I mean, if there's any additional funding that's needed to meet this, then we will need to look at how we do that. It's certainly not something that we're looking into at the moment. We think we can meet it from, within the work that these people, and like you say, there's people giving up their time to do this as well. Mm-hmm. So we're getting assistance from groups outside that are giving up their time to do it. So we don't envision that there's going to be an extra cost associated with that.
Yeah, but what about the cost within council? You don't identify those, do we?
I mean, not that
so we wouldn't know.
Other than what Lance has said to you, yeah.
Okay. How could we identify that if we wanted to? Could you? Couldn't they?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question, sorry.
We'd have to set up a separate cost centre and staff would have to record their time like consultants do.
Like accountants do and lawyers and that sort of stuff, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
correct, yeah.
Yeah.
Which, if you did that right across the council, my experience in working other places, it becomes extremely time consuming.
Okay. On page 2, goal 2, new action, implement a minimum of one project or campaign per year to increase knowledge and
Sorry, on
engagement in
page,
youth.
what was that? 2?
Sorry, they don't have page numbers. Okay, so it's actually page 7 of the plan, it's not page 7 of the agenda.
That would be done.
So it's the one that says goal 2, young people contribute to issues that matter to them in Hamilton. And new action 2.3. Have we got we're going to implement a minimum of one project per year to increase knowledge and engagement of youth in democratic processes? What was the project and did it work and what happened?
Well, that's a new action, so it hasn't been done as yet.
Oh, okay, so that's
yeah.
that's going forward. is
Yeah.
it? So when would that be reported back to us?
So that will be an annual. We actually don't have a date as to when in the year that will be done, but we will be doing one per year. So we'll be reporting back on progress throughout the reports that we bring back here.
Okay, so that would be the same with 3.2 on page 8 of the report, which is developing information about staying safe in Hamilton.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, so it hasn't happened.
I think, Nick, just to help in the resolutions that the council consider, the third resolution is an annual report back to this committee on how you're progressing against this action plan. So I think, Councillor Mallett, there is a resolution you'll be considering as part of the overall report.
All of these things are going to be very, very difficult to measure, aren't they?
I don't believe so. I think we'll be able to meet all these. I mean, we're very confident that we'll be able to actually achieve all of these and be able to measure them.
How will you measure the increase in knowledge and engagement of youth in democratic processes?
Well, that's something.
What's your metric there?
Well, we'll have to do a bit of survey and find out what they know at the moment. At the moment, it's been identified as an area where we could increase knowledge. So we'll have to find that out. But at the moment, that's not something that's happening. So by adding in a new action, we feel that we're going to increase knowledge and engagement just by adding something in.
Any idea how you'll do it?
At the moment, we're looking at ideas for that. We are hoping to come back to our youth advisory panel to get some feedback from them. One of the ideas they've had is that they'd like to engage with our high schools and get some input from them, as a number of them are coming up to kind of voting age, and we'd like to get some feedback from them.
If I may, through the Chair,
Sure.
if they are new actions, the actual project plan for the new actions still need to be developed. So the detail that you're asking, Councillor Mallett, is still to be worked up.
Okay, and when will those be back to us?
It'll be through the report, correctly is one of the recommendations that the action plan will be reported back through S&P on an annual basis.
Okay, so we already know we don't know how much it's going to cost because we don't cost these things. We're not too sure how we're going to measure the outcomes or if they're even achieved.
We're fairly confident that the actions, I mean, this has been some fairly robust work that's been through the Youth Advisory Panel that's had input from staff internally, from strategy and research, and from my team, as well as the Youth Action Plan, Action Advisory Council, and we're fairly confident that the actions that have been presented in this Youth Action Plan are ones that we believe will be achievable. We wouldn't be putting actions in there that wouldn't be achievable.
Any idea if you'll ever know how much it's going to cost? You'll never know how much it costs, will you?
That is, through the general manager, did
The answer's no.
before, was it's business as usual. It's within my operating budget, and the majority of the work will be carried out by my community advisors, and that's in their pay capacity and the work and the role that they play within this organisation.
I think just to be helpful, councillors, I mean, Deanne, I guess within your budget, you do identify a certain portion of staff's role to various things. So, I mean, to Councillor Mallett's question, ultimately you probably could approximate the cost of the work involved in this, which would be a representation of how much staff time out of your total budget and which portion of your direct budgets may be assigned to that. So it's just not specified in the paper here, but out of Deanne's team, she will have staff involved with this, and those will be direct costs. I think the General Manager's point before was that tracking this on an individual basis going forward that's not how council was set up in terms of how Deanne's team costs its projects. But within her actual budget, there'll be a number of things, youth being one of those, which is a part of that budget cost centre.
My concern with this is that we are engaging in a project with extremely abstract goals, many unmeasurable. We've had it confirmed that we have no way, no practical way of knowing how much it costs. And I have questions whether it's even a matter for a city council to be involved in. So I have very, very strong concerns over this.
If I can comment just here that this is a strategy. Yes, I agree with Lance. It'd be very difficult to put cost columns on a strategy. We certainly can put cost columns against specific projects, and I think Dee alluded to that. But this is a strategy, and that strategy, like the other strategies that the council does and plans, provides context for the organisation as it goes about its daily business to make decisions. So the plan as such is... Sorry, Councillor Miller, what was that?
I just feel much better after that.
There's no need to be sarcastic. Respect works both ways, thank you. I'm entitled to make comments. Thank you. Certainly this is a strategy, and you can't put a price on a direction of travel. You can on individual projects. Are there any further questions, Councillor? Oh, sorry, I had Councillor Pascoe first.
Yes, thank you. Minor questions. On page 4 of the action plan, you're quoting in there some median age figures for Hamilton and comparing it with the national total. I get a little bit confused with this because Professor Natalie Jackson, when she spoke to us at last year at Waikato Stadium, mentioned that Hamilton's median age from the last census was 37. And I've been regularly quoting that in different opportunities I've had to talk about how young our city is. And now I find that I'm 4.8 years out. Now, I just wonder if we can, and this is, I presume that figure's come from somewhere, but I just wonder across the organisation whether we shouldn't be getting some consistency around, that we're all talking the same figures. I don't know where this figure's come from. I thought mine came from a very, very good source. So it might be useful just to check that, one, we've got the figures right, and if we have, then maybe we should be making that organisational wide so that we're actually able to quote the correct median age, because I think it's a very important stat for Hamilton. Because if we are going to spend resources in an area to make the city more livable, we should be putting expenditure into those areas where it most matters, and it does if we have got a young city. So the second question, I probably didn't get an answer to the first one, but the second question is, who owns this plan? I notice in the staff commentary, the action plan was developed in partnership with the previous youth council, but in this paper we don't really give the youth council very much of an ownership to the plan. And when I look at the motion, it talks about us approving the plan. Does the plan belong to us, or does it belong to a partnership of the council and the youth and the youth advisory panel, or does it really belong to neither?
If I may, through the chair, the plan is a council plan, and just to give a bit of context and probably a bit of history, the youth council previous to the youth advisory council that we know today had been a part of the organisation for a long time. And that youth council was quite proactive and being heavily involved in a lot of action-orientated activity. With the change with the new governance structure and the implementation of the youth advisory panel, that focus has changed. The terms of reference is very clear, that it is around providing advice to elected members around youth issues within Hamilton City. So the plan that was developed historically was under the old Youth Council, and they had a lot of input into the development of that plan. The City Safety Plan actually did spark the review of this Youth Action Plan. So that's been a really good opportunity for staff to sit down with the Youth Advisory Panel to review that plan in its entirety and get some better clarity, and I think robust actions and new actions have actually dropped out of that. So it's quite clear in terms of what's council's role in supporting young people within Hamilton City, but it also does have a connection to what are some of the existing collaborations that were part of the previous Youth Action Plan. I'm going to confuse you all here. And we've still included some of those actions that haven't been completed as part of that.
So my next question is the new arrangement, seeing we've got some member of the panel here, is it working? Is the new arrangement where the youth panel perhaps don't have as much in the way of input, in the way of ownership, is that working better than the old plan did, than the old arrangement did?
I'll let Rox answer. I think it is. Yes.
Since we've been operational over, I think it was about 18 months ago, we haven't been implementing or doing the hands-on action work for the previous youth action plan. What we've done to date has been advising on strategy and policy issues and going forward, advising the council on matters that affect youth in Hamilton. We've had input into this youth action plan, and we've advised the council, but as a panel, we're not taking we aren't mandated to take any responsibility for the actions in this panel at council level.
But you think your inputs is effective?
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
We've worked fairly closely with Nick and Dee and the rest of the team here, and what we've discussed we've seen implemented into this plan. So as a panel, we do think that our advice is being heard and taken on board.
Thank you.
Councillor Forsyth.
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair, just trying to understand some of Councillor Mannett's observations or statements about the fact that the plan is obscure and there are few measurables and dates and etc. etc. So I've just gone through it again, and on each page, bar a couple, and I'll go through them. On page 7, new actions. That's an action that will be completed by June 2016. 1.6 is December 16. 1.7 is minimum of 1 per year. Page 7, a new action is 1 project or campaign per year. These are the new actions I'm talking about. New action on page 8. It doesn't state, there's one that doesn't state, but it's implied that the action is ongoing, so that it happens continually. Page 9, new actions, July 2015, 4.6, 1 research per year. Page 10, promote civic awards. Well, we have civic awards once per year, so it's implied that that's a 1 yearly action. And I just fail to understand the statement that there's no due by dates and there's difficult to measure. No, I just don't understand that.
Thank you, Councillor.
Seems pretty clear to me.
Right, there's no further questions. Question, Councillor King.
What does rangatahi mean?
It's a Māori word for youth.
So why are we calling this the Youth Action Plan? The rangatahi Youth Action Plan. I mean, should the youth be in brackets or should it be dropped out? It just seems, it just doesn't make sense.
Youth squared.
We're just saying the youth action plan. I don't. I understand. I just thought maybe the youth could be in brackets, or that maybe it doesn't. You don't have to give me any feedback on that now, but to me, when I saw the word and then looked up what it meant, and then I sort of thought, well, I figured that's what it meant, but yeah, to double up. Thank you.
All right, any further questions? We'll go to debate. Deputy Mayor, you had your hand up.
Thanks, Chair. I've been sitting here biting my tongue. Councillor Mallett's interrogation I found insulting and disrespectful. Our panel is voluntary, a group of intelligent young people who are making a great contribution to our city. And I would personally like to acknowledge the work of our youth members and say thank you. I'm encouraged by the Youth Rangatahi Action Plan. Whatever our investment in youth, it will never be enough. And councillors who disregard and disrespect our youth will do so at their peril.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Any further speakers? Councillor Forsyth, you're the seconder.
Oh, second, yes.
Sorry, you're the mover. Did you want to speak?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, look, I will. Thank you for those words, Deputy Mayor. And look, I think while I have this opportunity to thank not only youth council members, I would also like to take this opportunity to thank Nick Chester, who has been supportive of the Youth Council Advisory Panel, has done far more work than any other support that we've had in the past. And I know the passion that you have for this group and the excitement that you have about performing your job and your duties. So, look, a rare opportunity for us to say thank you for your contribution that you've made. And yeah, that this plan is something that the Youth Council have put together themselves with support of staff, but it's something that they put together, and as Dee noted, the objectives that they included here were objectives and actions that they felt that they could deliver. It was very much a part of the construction of the plan. So I'm confident that the actions, not only that they're currently doing, but the new actions will be delivered in the timeframes that they've said. And we do have a reporting once a year in the form of the full plan report, where we can track and just keep tabs on what's being done and how it's being done. So it's a good move.
Thank you. Sorry, I just needed to correct my mover and seconder. Was that was you, Councillor Forsyth, and the Deputy Mayor? Were you, or the other way round?
I thought the Deputy
Mayor moved.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Do we need further? Councillor Mallett, I had you next.
Thank you. I'll be voting against this for the clear reasons that, and it's interesting, Councillor Chestman said he bit his tongue. It's a shame he didn't do that when a few other decisions were made a few years ago in Council, and a little bit more sceptical about the reports that were being presented to Council at the time would have saved the ratepayers millions and millions of dollars. Anyway, it concerns me that Council is unable to tell me what it is currently costing for what Council is currently doing, and I'll just quickly go through some of the things that we are currently doing. 1.1, host a youth leadership event camp. 1.2, facilitates a minimum of 2 youth leadership programs in aquatic facilities per year. 1.3, hosts a minimum of 4 H-Town Youth Connect youth sector meetings per year. 1.4, shares information online resources. 2.1, facilitate early engagement with youth council on advisory. But 2.2, provide opportunities for young people to contribute to a variety of decisions. 3.1, implementing recommendations from the Transports Research Project. 4.1, working in partnership with the Tertiary Education Commission Gateway to train and develop young people. 4.2, monitoring smart Waikato's Fan Activate pilot. 4.3, continuing to support and program activities. 4.4, continuing to work with Smart Waikato on a range of providing a range of opportunities. 5.1, 30 under 30 project. 5.2, celebrating Youth Week annually in May. Now, I don't know why we can't record the cost against those projects. I would suggest there would be a team of people within council. And another thing, which brings me to another matter, this plan doesn't tell us who does it. I assume these are all going to be done by council staff, but it doesn't say that in here. So I think this is just a classic example of abstract ideas, nice ideas, good ideas, but abstract ideas, very few measurables, very, very little limited lines of accountability as to who's responsible. We haven't got a budget for it. I think this is just an example of the worst type of decision making that a local authority that is spending other people's money can make. Thank you.
Any further speakers?
Yeah, I'll speak to this.
Councillor King?
I think youth groups, schools, education facilities, family, friends, neighbours, sports clubs, sports facilities, I think they do this kind of thing well, looking after youth, often run by volunteers, often not for profit. I think government doesn't do this type of work well. I think government can facilitate clubs and can facilitate facilities for these people to use, but I don't think government actually handles people well. I don't think we're efficient at it. I don't think either central government or local government do it well. Of course, there are costs that do build up in council for this type of report and this type of support, and it goes on, and I think the creep is starting. We've set ourselves 3.8% rates increases for the next 10 years when inflation's running at less than 1%, well less than 1% at the moment, I understand. We've given ourselves another $130 million to spend from today's debt levels over the next 10 years, but I just think this type of thing is not what we should be involved in. Support by making facilities available by all means, but actually hands-on, making it happen, I've got my doubts. So I won't be supporting this motion.
Right, I'd like to say a few words. First of all, thanks to Roxy and your panel for the work that you've been putting in and the ideas that you've contributed to the strategy. To hear the words abstract ideas, worst type of decision making, etc., be applied to a strategy that sets the direction of travel and frames decision making for this organisation is incredibly disappointing to me, and I hope that you don't relay that back to your panel members. I disagree with the comment that local government isn't the best to do this. For me, this is the same as the other strategies that we've done where we've attracted partnership with the community, like the Gardens plan, where we've attracted funding, considerable funding as well, gardens, cycleways, playgrounds. We are, like it or not, some elected members, we are the leaders of the city, and it is up to us to shape with our communities in partnerships the kind of Hamilton that we want to live in. And the kind of Hamilton that I want to live in celebrates young people. The kind of Hamilton that I want to live in has a plan. The council does have a plan and sets a direction and a tone and a future for young people and celebrates 30 under 30. And I think local government has a role to play. Particularly one of the actions in here is getting young people more involved in the democratic process. And here you are today, and your panel members who sit round for a whole term for 3 years with the current elected members, and you are part of that democratic process. And that needs to be celebrated. That is not something that we need to be kept out of. That is something that we need to be kept into. The government has a youth development strategy, so central government think it's important as well. So congratulations and thank you for the work that you've done, and to Dee, your team, Nick as well. And I know that the community will grasp this, and they will enjoy it, and they will celebrate it as it deserves to be celebrated. So thank you. Are there any further speakers? Councillor McPherson.
Firstly, apologies for lateness.
Thank you. Yep.
Madam Chair. Last night, I was running a sports competition that had between 400, 450 young people there. The council was involved to the extent that it provided an excellent facility, which I think was a very good role and a very useful role for it to play. But the council had no role in establishing that competition. Volunteers did from a particular sports organisation, and I think that was the best mix. I think the words and plan, there's nothing wrong with them. They're well-meaning. There's nothing I particularly disagree with. But I'm getting tired in this council of plans for plan's sake. I don't think we need a youth action plan or anything like that in order to provide good facilities, whether they be sporting facilities or other recreational facilities or educational facilities or whatever for young people. And it sort of irritates me when I see there is no budget allocated. So to me, I think, well, what's the point? We have a budget for specific activities and events that are run for young people. I have to question whether we have a democratic process that they're involved in. I know, Madam Chair, you talked about the committee being a democratic part of the democratic process. It's an advisory committee only. I would actually be more inclined to support something like this if there was a young person's committee that had a budget and a responsibility and were being supported to accept the responsibility for spending a budget than just words on paper. We have more plans and strategies in this council than you can shake a stick at. And so I'm not going to support this because I don't think it's practical. It's not that I oppose the words that are in there, and if I could abstain, I probably would choose to do that as my priority. But it doesn't enhance what's already being done by many people in the city, and by what's being done by council. It doesn't enhance that, in my opinion. It wraps some nice words around it, and just like the government plans, yes, they have all those sorts of plans, and equally when you're out there in the field, you don't see any practical evidence of them being put in place. The practical evidence is provided by members of the community themselves as volunteers, or as Councillor King said, non-profit organisations. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Any further speakers? No, there being no further speakers, I'll put that to the vote. That's been moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Forsyth. All those in favour, please raise your hands. And any against? Democracy, has that been carried? I wasn't counting.
Chair, it's an equal distribution, 6 votes each way.
I will elect to use my casting vote.
Are you sure?
No,
I don't.
you counted it wrong.
Oh, let's do that again. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Your Worship, the Mayor, Councillor Pascoe, Councillor Forsyth, Councillor Young, Deputy Mayor, myself, and Councillor Tooman.
It's carried.
It's carried. Yeah. Great, thank you. Thank you. Right, item 8, page 50. This is the two gambling policies. The Class 4 gambling venues policy and the TAB venue policy statement of proposal. And we've got Deborah. Hi, Deborah. Thank you. Deborah, you can take the report as read. And we will go to questions. Hi, Tegan.
Good afternoon.
Thank you. Or actually, just give us a quick update on why we're here, where we're at in this process, Tegan.
Yeah, certainly. So today we're bringing back a statement of proposal to commence a formal consultation process as required by the legislation. The statement of proposal seeking council adoption to go out to consultation starting the 2nd of September, closing the 2nd of October, with hearings to be held later in October. The SOP commences on page 54 of the agenda. And I'd just like to point out two key points around that. Council asked us to reflect two options. In the original report, they were option 2 and option 3. That got a little bit confusing, so we've renamed them option A and option B for ease of consultation. And we've actually drafted them as two separate policies because once you put in one clause, it meant other clauses had to be deleted, so it didn't work well showing one policy with the two options. So in the SOP, you'll see there's an option A and an option B for the Class 4 gambling policy.
Great, thank you. Let's go to questions. Councillor Mallett.
Thank you. Again, we're up to that consultation thing. Page 51, in the recommendation, and I apologise, Gordon, you may have bitten your tongue off by the end of this meeting, but point B, we're looking for public consultation, and point C, we're talking about the consultation process. So that doesn't say, what's the term? Special, what's the special?
Special consultative procedure.
It's not that.
It is.
Oh, it is that. Okay, so...
And that's why we've reflected the more formal language of public consultation.
Can we just use the term then?
Can
Because we use the word special consultation.
Yes.
Like that's the proper term, is that right? And that means something, whereas consultation by itself means a myriad of things, reaching out to people and embracing people and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
So we just need clarity in our things.
So the recommendation of when it's ready needs to reflect for special consultative process, special consultative procedure, because that's how it's set out in the LGA, isn't it?
There's a reason you didn't use that term?
Just trying to keep it like more plain language, yeah.
So, yeah.
We do refer to the
we
special consultative procedure in the report.
And we sacrifice clarity when we do that, eh?
I think the key, Councillor, is that the legislation that covers this particular, these policies actually requires, in this instance, a special consultative procedure.
Yeah, but that's not a reason not to put it in the resolution.
No.
Okay,
Just,
point is being made. Councillor Mallett, further questions?
No, that's it, thank you.
Councillor King.
On the page 57, 1, 2, 3, 4 lines down, that line doesn't make sense.
Page which, sorry, Councillor?
57.
That on my copy shows me the submission form.
Yes. So under Class 4 gambling policy.
Oh, under section 2, is it?
Yep. And the fourth line down.
What?
R2B.
Which sentence, Councillor?
Is it word to be limited or?
Word be limited, yeah.
Is there a 2 missing there?
Oh, sorry, yeah, we can correct that.
Yep.
We're limited.
So cross out the B.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just thought before it goes out. My other comment on this, just want a bit of feedback on, is on page 57 still, A and B, you've made that option A and option B, you've made that very clear with you're either going with the true sinking lid or not. Okay, so that's really good. And then when you go over the page to 2, you've asked about location restrictions and proximity restrictions. If you ticked true sinking lid, you wouldn't need to answer those 2 questions. So they become, and I just thought with this going out to the public, that could get quite confusing because they would attempt to answer those questions when there is no reason for them to answer those questions. I wondered whether just a note there to say if you ticked A, don't fill this in because it just gets confusing for staff, for everybody.
So even if you ticked A, no relocations allowed, the policy still allows for mergers of clubs, and there are still location restrictions on those, and there are still proximity restrictions, sorry. So the question 2 relates to option A in the sense of mergers of private clubs.
Well, it should say that then, shouldn't it?
Because otherwise people
Because it's
would be
ambiguous.
confused about why they're being asked.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to make it as simple for the public as...
Tegan, I wonder if you could put a little note there. If you ticked option A, it relates to mergers and mergers only. If you ticked option B, it's the wider context.
Yep, we can do that. Yep.
Okay. And my other area of concern was with section 3, should you have what you've done on section 1 of basically laying it out really clearly, no more or more, as an option under that?
So explaining in brackets,
Well,
the proposed board venue policy means no new...
Yeah, with 1 you've just made it so clear, and I just think with 3, if you could make it that clear, still leave room for comments and everything, but it would just make it so clear for the public.
Yep, we can apply that.
Yeah, thank you.
Right, any further questions? Councillor Pascoe.
Yes, page, just a very small item on page page 62, under the heading Benefits of Gambling. There's a couple of typos there.
Sometimes you win. That's the benefit.
No, I didn't know there were any benefits in gambling. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, fifth line down, you've got the word fine instead of fined, and sponsorship is misspelt. I presume you'll pick that up anyway. Second question is around pages 66 and pages 77, where you've got location restrictions, and I just wondered whether there could be some examples, not necessarily in the policy, but somewhere in the notes around must not be closer than 100 metres in a straight line to any residentially or special character zoned land or community facility zoned land as outlined in the Hamilton City Proposed District Plan. Now that's quite a mouthful, and I think most of us probably have got no idea what examples of properties might fall into that particular category or categories. So is there somewhere, I don't know whether you'd fit it into the policy, but somewhere where that can be explained, the types of properties that the gambling site cannot be within that 100 metres in a straight line?
We could look to reflect that in the statement of proposal, in the summary of the policy.
Because I think anyone submitting on it will probably want to know what some of the examples might be of that. And I know that we have got some gambling sites that are close to sensitive sites in the city, so it may be that perhaps having some of those examples might help. And the third question is on page 52 under paragraph 40 around risk. The changes in the proposed policy are significant and represent further restrictions on the gambling industry. Is a legal challenge possible here? I'm sort of reflecting on the fact that we have got some significant financial power in some of the groups who might be likely to find this this policy to be somewhat more restrictive than it has been in the past. And I'm mindful of the fact that the some of the major players in the liquor industry have lodged some quite significant major battles around the country around the amended liquor policies. So is there an expectation that that could be another risk?
I think with a policy review of this nature, it's always a risk. You can't eliminate it. As we point out, though, in paragraph 41, we have followed the legislation. We have, we are within our rights within that legislation. So any review would probably be a judicial one around process.
Okay. So there's no threats coming through at this stage from
Not at
the
this
major
stage.
players who might otherwise feel like the further restrictions are coming to place on their ability to have more machines and more places.
We're likely to know
Making more
tomorrow
money.
after the report's adopted.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Mallett, question?
Yes, please. Going back to Andrew's point, section 3, question 3, do you support the proposed TA board BNU policy in principle? Principles, the word principle there is acting as a pronoun, in place of something. What is the principle you're referring to? Because that is ambiguous. You'd be better off just actually writing the principle in there, if you can define what is the principle.
The principle is no new.
No new. So put brackets, no new sites or something like that, so it's quite clear to the...
Are there any further questions? Tegan, the next part of the process, once the consultation period are over, is what?
Submission analysis, hearings, and then deliberations and decision making.
Okay. And during the special consultative process, are you intending to contact any key stakeholders, and how are you going to do that?
Yeah, so there'll be a public advert that goes out to everyone, but we always send a targeted letter to key players. So in this instance, the 3 that we have identified in particular are the Racing Board, represented by Harkness Henry, Population Health, and also Problem Gambling. We also, as a courtesy, send a similar letter out to all the stakeholders who submitted to the last review. And anyone else that we might have on our database who has contacted us in intervening years requesting to be kept in the loop.
Okay, thanks.
So there's about 30 stakeholders.
Right, okay. Okay, so I'm going to move if there are no further questions, I'm going to move the recommendation with some changes. Can we pop the recommendation up on the board? Thank you. And just to capture Councillor Mallett's concerns that the consultation in here be correct, to just change, in B, change venues policy be adopted for special consultative procedure. Is that the correct?
We would usually say to commence the special consultative procedure.
To commence, yep. And so change that. And then C, that special consultative procedure commences 2nd of September, so that's all okay. And then just to add a D, okay. And D, that hearings of submissions and deliberations be considered at an extraordinary strategy and policy committee meeting at a... We don't know. We can't put it... our staff telling me we can't put a date, so just leave it at that, at extraordinary S&P committee meeting.
At the next ordinary or extraordinary?
Extraordinary.
Thank you.
Can I just note that on B, we've lost the word be adopted?
Yeah.
Venues policy be adopted and
to commence.
And to commence, yeah. So I will move
Hang on, just
that.
one more question, if that's all right.
I'll just see if I have a seconder for that. Councillor McPherson seconding that. Yes, Councillor King?
Point 8 on page 50, is that what you've got on your elbow?
Yes, I have, yeah. So we noted the request that the policies be track changed, but because of the significant level of change, they're not really that useful. I've got copies I'm happy to hand out to anyone who wants them, but in the document we've reflected them the statement of proposal, we've shown the new version and then attached the old version or the current version as well, so people can get a feel for where the differences lie.
I wonder in future too, because you've got some current policies in there, and I think the same is for the governance. If, I don't know, a big red stamp saying current policy would help if we can't do a tracked change. Proposed policy, current policy, etc. would be quite helpful. Okay, right, so that's been moved by myself, seconded by Councillor McPherson. Debate. Is there anyone wishing to speak? No. Okay, I'll put that motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Are there any against? There's no one against, so that's carried. Thank you very much. Thank you. And we're going to break for 15 minutes for afternoon tea.